Well, right now on our remote workspace panel discussion on the topic evolution of cloud strategy, has COVID-19 and work from home phenomena helped or hurt the adoption of zero trust in the enterprise? And what are the key uses driving adoption of zero trust? Well, this panel will discuss the benefits and obstacles to rolling out zero trust in the enterprise, the impact of COVID-19 and work from home has posed, and the key use cases driving adoption of zero trust, such as remote application access, cloud migration, and the emergence of cloud-native technologies. We're looking at talking about using data, AI, and analytics to try and understand the new normal, building a preventive framework to reduce and mitigate the likelihood of business disruption, implementing the most immediate cloud workplace tools, VPN and bandwidth capacity to support remote work, identify and access management capability, cloud-based contact centers for improved CX, consider the availability of critical cloud infrastructure for your overall value network, leveraging workspace technology that meets the needs of your entire business and supports identify security and licensing models for disrupted workforce and defining policies around remote work. For this, we are joined by our eminent panelists. First up, Virag Thakkar, Regional Information Security Officer, APAC Alliance Partners, Bangkok, Thailand, joining us. Well, Virag has 20 plus years of leadership experience in cyber and information security, covering audit compliance, privacy frameworks, risk management, and establishing security operations, and has core strengths such as cybersecurity, strategic outsourcing, PCI, GDPR, privacy frameworks, DLP and SOC, and much more. Thank you so much, Virag, for joining us today.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you.
Joining Virag on the screen now is going to be Sony Supriyadi, SVP, Head Pricing and Data Analytics, Maybank, Indonesia. Well, Sony is a versatile pricing professional and an international speaker with global exposure and thrives in the challenging environment. He's somebody who's led global projects in many countries to lead local organizations for their business and process transformation. Thank you so much, Sony, for joining us today.
Thank you, Bhavana. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Also joining them is going to be Edmund Sito Morang, the Chief Technology Officer, Artificial Intelligence Innovation Lead, Prodigy Sinamaris Group, Indonesia, joining us. Well, Edmund has 15 years of senior management experience with passion in strategy, information technology, and human capital development, and a motto to always invest in people. He's a speaker and a community resource on digital transformation and security, data science, and artificial intelligence. Thank you so much, Edmund, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thanks.
Pleasure having you. Also joining our eminent panelists on the screen is Ryan D. Mello, the VP, Data and Cloud Platform, Tokopedia, Singapore. Well, Ryan's technology leader with a track record of 15 plus years of experience and leading engineering for logistics, fulfillment, payments, purchase platform, new retail, cloud, and data platforms. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Bhavna.
Pleasure. Also joining us shortly would be Praveen Lala, the Director of Digital Services, APAC, GE Digital Singapore. Well, Praveen is a digital transformation and IoT big data focused executive with extensive experience in driving internal and external change in energy space across a complex and diverse APAC region. Well, he'll be joining us shortly on the same. And ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to introduce to you the moderator of this session, who is K. Kalpo Luktu, the founder and COO, Hungry Workforce, Philippines. Well, Kay is a veteran in the information and communications technology sector. Her areas of expertise include go-to-market strategy, sales management, and business development. And she's also a licensed electronics and a communications engineer. Thank you so much, Kay, for joining us today and being a moderator for this session.
Thanks for having me, Bhavna. Good day, everyone.
Good day. So ladies and gentlemen, with this, we have our eminent panel on your screen. It is now time to pass on the live reins to Kay to take it forth. But if you do have any questions for our audience, for our eminent panelists, do direct it in the Q&A tab. You can just post it and we'll see if we can address it towards the end if time allows. With this, Kay, it's all yours.
Thanks very much, Bhavna. Good day, everyone. Again, I'm excited to moderate this remote workspace panel discussion, and I'm excited to be joined by our 5 esteemed panelists from the region. So, as we all know, the pandemic has truly driven companies to invest in work from home arrangements. And not only that, but also in investing in cloud infrastructure and application technologies for resiliency. So in terms of the cloud evolution strategy, we're here to talk about that in detail. And I'd like to start first with Mr. Edmund Sitomorang. He's the CTO and AI Innovation Lead in Prodigy and Sinarmas Group. Mr. Edmund, what are your insights in terms of building a preventive framework to reduce and mitigate the likelihood of business disruption? Of course, everyone would want to avoid disruption while working from home. What's a sustainable preventive framework from your perspective?
Well, talking about security and a platform nowadays, there's so much platform to choose from. Working from home, we're coming to an age where, without us realizing, everybody has to be on board now, online now. Having said that, one of the things that most companies are not realizing is there's zero trust, right? This is part of the strategic, the 7 layers of trust prevention that, that says never trust, always verify. Most of us think, when you're inside a network, when you VPN into the office, then you're safe and everything. But this is not necessarily the case. We are coming to an age where security breaches and also having this layers of security ensures our sustainability going forward. And yeah. I always say that we're coming to an age where AI is part of technology already. Everything that we do on our phone, on our PC, everything is controlled by AI. As a matter of fact, one of the best speaker, one of the model that I have in the real world, he said, if you're not in AI within 3 years, you're going to be a dinosaur. So that's the reality. We are coming to an age where we have to embed AI everywhere, everything we do. Even how our team is working is being monitored by AI, whether or not they're really working, or they're just sitting down, or they're on their laptop, they turn it on, but then they left and then they sleep. How do you know that? AI ensures that everything is being monitored, workforce is agile, and everything all is within the framework where technology supports the development of going forward. So AI is a big part of that. Thanks.
Amazing insights on artificial intelligence, Edmund, and I totally agree that the use of such technology really gives tremendous insights and even patterns on people using whatever workplace technology they may have in place. And having said that, I'd like to ask Mr. Sonny Supriyadi from Maybank, Indonesia, your perspective, in terms of artificial intelligence, data analytics. How can we use this actually to make sure that we can derive and get more data in trying to understand this new normal that the pandemic has been bringing us in?
Thank you so much, Kay. If you're looking at the what mentioned by Edmund earlier, is so on point. AI is everywhere, basically. Well, here in the bank, financial industries, we don't want to be dinosaurs as well. That's one of the aspects of this, that we have to embrace technology. We have to embrace digital transformation. And one of those is, how do we understand our customers better? So by having COVID, it accelerates everything.
Yeah.
It's no longer we have to see them, and that's not excuse. People don't want to see each other anymore now, especially 2020, last year. They avoid seeing people. So how are we going to do that? Number one, there's a behavior or pattern changes because of those. from face-to-face selling products. We cannot do that anymore. We have to see people through virtually, and so on and so forth. So mobile banking becomes one of the key aspects. Digital platform becomes one of the key to penetrate those markets. If you don't have those two, well, bye-bye. You become T-Rex maybe. So there you go. I think the key in here is to understand the pain point that you have, or at least your existing customers. Once you have those, and then you try to change the behavior from the face-to-face into virtualization, into using biometric, and so on and so forth, to get your mobile apps becomes adapt to this situation what we're in at the moment. I think that's it for me, Kay. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Sonny. I think I echo your statements, especially in avoiding to become a T-Rex or whatever kind of dinosaur there could be. But really, the pandemic, I think, has allowed all of us to transform in many, many ways. A lot of it also is driven by the fact that we want to know more about our customers while ensuring that we all practice safe distancing and really, doing all of these things remotely. Having those technologies in place, those capabilities in place, of course, also require a lot of, infrastructure at the back end to make sure that all these critical applications still run 24/7, even if we're, doing all of these remote work at home. And at this point, I do want to get the insights of Mr. Ryan DeMello. He's the VP for Data and Cloud Platform of Tokopedia in Singapore. So, Tokopedia is absolutely a very big company, right? Your perspective in terms of making sure that there's available critical cloud infrastructure for the overall network. How do we make sure that there's actually a very good critical cloud infrastructure in place?
That's a good question. Just to add, I know there were talks about dinosaurs and T-Rexes, but Tokopedia is more of the Generation Z unicorns, focused in e-commerce. A lot of the tech legacy infrastructure, there was very minimal transformation that we really had to do. COVID was kind of a test of the evolution that we have been going through literally from the day we were born over 10 years ago. To give you a little bit of context, how our cloud kind of shaped up to where it is today, we initially started with on-premise, like any good startup, be conservative. About 7 to 8 years ago, we decided that we need the elasticity and scalability. That's where we moved to Ali and AWS clouds. Directly, we approached two clouds at the same time. Subsequently, about 2 years ago, we realized that we need more dynamics to our infrastructure, and we introduced a third layer. We also rebalanced how we were using these existing clouds. So we've got 3 of the most reliable names out there who are supporting us. Not to say that there were any pros or cons with the previous, but it's just evolution that takes us forward. Connectivity. Now, obviously, when you're residing in clouds across different data centers, you need very strong network connectivity. That's where we leveraged direct connections. And some of the big partners we used were Equinix and Epsilon. While looking at these direct connections, we also ensured high availability. High availability, we looked at physical high availability of making sure that these connections were across different data centers, Equinix and Global Switch. Now to keep it all together, we used SSL-based VPN with proper role-based accesses. I think there's a lot of talk about zero trust. It's all about having a very secure inbound into your network, and then proper routing configurations to make sure that people get where they need to be. We also have kept it very flexible. When you look at cloud native architectures, you have broadly the structured and the unstructured. Now, the structured, you could just go and get something like Pivotal Cloud Foundry, but we took the unstructured approach and really kept that evolution going, investing in building orchestration, configuration tooling, and literally what works best for us. We seldomly took a lot of platform as a service solutions offered by any cloud vendor that left it open to scale. We've got over 350 services accessed by over 1,300 engineers. Everything's kept together. The amount of logs generated, our observability framework is pretty insane. We produce little over 2 petabytes a month. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that, it must be really an insane setup to kind of sustain that. You mentioned that there's about 350 plus services accessed by 1,300 engineers. Can you imagine that? And I suppose it continuously scales.
Yes. That's the reason why we did not have any physical investments to, that would need a lot of capex investment to scale. So it was quite dynamic literally from the get-go. And like I said, COVID was just a test of something that was in the making. And eventually what we intend is also we plan to extend these services to help other enterprises, not just in Indonesia, but literally across the globe. That's work in progress for us.
Correct. Well, thanks for that, Ryan. Yes, I remember my days back in, when I was working in Singapore, and I used to manage an e-commerce company as well. And high availability, like you mentioned, Equinix and another one, Global Access, is also paramount in ensuring that your structure, whether physical or virtual, really is, disruption free. Right. I think it's also very good for Tokopedia to be born like, a decade plus ago in an era where all of these dynamic capabilities are actually quite possible. Right. So thank you for that. And, taking off from what Ryan has shared, I want to ask Edmund again. We're all in ASEAN, in Southeast Asia region, right? And of course, when we talk about critical cloud infrastructure applications, work from home arrangements, of course, the baseline idea there is that, how's the internet? And for me, living in Manila, internet is really an interesting conversation over here, because it's not like in Singapore where internet is very cheap and very robust. Like, you can easily get a 1 gig, 2 gig, in a day or two, right? So it's very different in this, in Manila, for example. So Edmund, what are your thoughts in terms of, having the bandwidth capacity to support remote work? For that matter, how would companies then kind of ensure that they have enough bandwidth capacity, given that we are all in this region where internet is not exactly as robust as we want it to be?
Yeah, going back to cloud computing, the methodology is when you have one place where you store all your marbles, of course, it's going to be, the bandwidth the throughput going to that one place is going to be a lot. But once you go on the cloud, it's totally different. With the things that we do, especially within the mainframe of developing a more lightweight technology, where you could put on mobile, you could put on everywhere. Things are getting more. How do I say this? Not sophisticated, but seamless enough. Say, for example, like when you're watching things on YouTube, they have bandwidth meters that, it automatically scales down as you're watching, right? And that's the reality of our world. Our throughput data needs to be configured in a certain way where it's stable. And then secondly, where it enables users to do activities even within the shortest or the lowest minimum bandwidth that is available for them. So this is again Indonesia, part of that. We're growing. Yes, we are. Internet is almost available everywhere. But then again, there are certain places where these like you mentioned, it's hard to get and or expensive for certain people. But coming down through COVID, I think even the whole internet or the whole ISP industry has already coming down with their prices. So then it enables everyone to go to school, to go work and do a lot of things. And so I think part of that is making our future going steady into the internet business. So if you're not internet, your business are not online, you're going to soon be dead, because we don't know how long this COVID is going to last. We don't know if there's another pandemic like earlier mentioned by Virag and Pak Sony. Yeah? So preparing ourselves with technology that ensures and enables our users, like For example, we have here from Tokopedia, they, even with their usage, they enables people, using the right technology, people can access Tokopedia with even with a low bandwidth, or with a high speed. So it is in our end, in our part, to ensure that the users can only accept, when we don't prepare those strategies within our structure, then we're going to lose out a lot of customers.
Very well said. Thank you so much for that, Edmund. Yes, I echo what you said. In fact, over here in the Philippines, the access to internet, has been made accessible already, even to kind of far-flung areas. The evidence of that is that, Filipinos over there actually have access to Facebook, for example, and telco providers who give devices and data, make sure that the application is kind of can work with the limited bandwidth, for example, that's available in that area. In fact, even online learning, because of this pandemic, even school children can access or can learn through online applications, right? Okay, well, thank you again for that, Edmund. Now I wanna ask Virag here. Virag is the Regional Information Security Officer of Allianz Partners based in Bangkok in Thailand. From your perspective, Virag, having discussed a preventive framework to make sure that the business becomes disruption-free when working remotely, to having, let's say, utilizing AI in terms of data crunching and having a critical cloud infrastructure in place, what then could we think of as kind of remote policies, or policies really, that would be applicable when it comes to remote work? That companies must implement or have in place to ensure that controls are there and there's zero trust also in place.
Sure. Thank you, Kate. And thank you, Edmund, Sony, and Ryan, for wonderful insights. So as we have been discussing about two scenarios out here, one is the T-Rex scenario, which is, an age-old company which still exists. And on other side, there are companies like Tokopedia who are new age unicorns with cloud in place. And based on my experience of writing information security policies and understanding the IT infrastructure, we need to have a balance between both the worlds. Although the risk pertaining to the new age technologies are a little bit on a higher side rather than the legacy ones, but that does not mean that we truly ignore the previous ones as well. The whole point of having a policy previously was, to say no to a person or an organization or to a group, that this is our policy and you are not supposed to do this and that. But I think the policy has evolved a lot in last few years, or last 5-6 years at least, when I've seen in the organizations where the policies are meant to connect, communicate, and collaborate. It is there to ensure that the offline and the online communication between the employees and the business is more approachable. It helps them to focus, and it improves the employee experience within the companies and the organizations. So when it comes to the policy portion, it consists of 5 or 6 key elements, which is what are the expectations coming out of remote work policies or cloud-based policies? What are the tools and technologies which are available, and how do we leverage those tools and technology in terms of various scales, in communication side, in business application side, even in crowdsourcing? And when I say crowdsourcing, in terms of ideation, because in a remote world, ideation is a big thing, and Tokopedia would very well understand, considering most of the employees at the moment might be working from home. So how do I ideate when people are not physically present? The idea generation needs to have a more elaborate process, and the policies revolving the workplace, cloud workplace tools needs to be there to ensure the communication and brighter ideas coming out of it. Second point, in terms of policy, which I have recently noticed more evolving, and it's still in an evolving stage, is what Edmund and Sony and basically emphasized was on the AI part. So AI brings a lot of challenges in terms of writing a policy for a remote workplace. And not only for remote workplace, but in general, AI brings a lot of different challenges. And you need to balance it out between processing of AI data and the privacy as well. So as long as AI is processing of data, but the privacy controls, which are very well evolving in each and every country, it keeps on changing every day in, day out, based on the government direction. You need to balance out AI on a remote cloud place. How are you storing the data? How are you processing the data? Where it is getting stored? It becomes very interesting to write a policy on those portions. So in a nutshell, if I have to put it down, it's basically your policy is not only for the technology piece, but it's also for the people and the processes. And at the end of the top layer, you have your governance, risk, and compliance, which ensures that the policy are implemented correctly, they are getting monitored correctly. You have your assurance side, which is also enabling without impacting the business that you are required to do.
Thanks for that, Vera. Very insightful. Way would be, when you mentioned policies and how it is not just on technology itself, but really on government compliance requirements, and also, of course, you mentioned about privacy also, which is critical in this day and age. Now, in terms of what do you call this, policies in relation to privacy, I want to ask Ryan again from Tokopedia. I know Tokopedia, of course, using all of these dynamic capabilities already. Obviously, for customer experience, that is also something that's been in place. What is your perspective in terms of, let's say, a cloud-based contact center, using that kind of platform for improved customer experience for all your customers in Tokopedia?
It's a good question, Kate. So I think what we have done is, even from the customer support perspective, like you mentioned, we recently we had integrated our service, our infrastructure monitoring, and our endpoint, our mobile app and web monitoring with the customer support system, which means that in case a customer raised a support ticket, we could the customer care could actually try and identify which did they experience an issue. Was there any technical related issue that could have caused some inconsistency in the experience? Is it pertinent to a specific device? Now these are all areas that we are tracking. Indonesia has got diversity in terms of telco offerings, in terms of the mobile. Tokopedia's customers predominantly are mobile devices. They've got a lot of interesting manufacturers that probably none of us in this forum have heard of, but we need to they are a pretty huge, significant user base, and we need to ensure that if there's any broken experience, how we can tackle that. And I think it's how we stitch these different data points together. Observability, it can happen in all the different layers in the network, service layer, application infra, again at the mobile endpoint layer, how it all ties together and how we identify which customers and the number of customers are impacted. AI, like Sony mentioned, Edmund I think also mentioned the same, and Virat, we are using a lot of anomaly detection to try and understand those pockets of issues and tackle them on those bases when you're looking at over 1.5 petabytes a day generated.
All right, thanks for that, Ryan. Yeah, it's all about stitching all these data points coming from X number of data sources. I think about the OSI layer, and just from that alone, we can derive many information as well. What more, in this day and age, the other customer channels also that provide tremendous amount of data. So, of course, I wanted to ask Sonny again on, from your perspective in Maybank, what are the other workplace technologies actually that we can leverage on, leveraging, let's say, on AI capabilities? What are the technologies out there that organizations can also look into?
Yes, first thing first, I'm not jealous with Ryan DeMello at all. I'm not jealous with Tokopedia technology, no. No, to be honest with you, Tokopedia is one of the, what we are trying to build ours, one especially for retails, becomes like what Ryan's mentioned earlier, how to stitch all the things. the issue with the challenges with banks compared with the fintech is, as you know, we are like a tanker. We cannot, while Tokopedia or fintech is like a speedboat, they can just maneuver very quickly from left to right. You know, you've got product, it's only discussed or the ideation this morning, and then later tomorrow it's got the product immediately launched. You can do that. In the bank, you cannot do that. That's one of the issues. So the level of playing field is slightly different. When we're talking about this, how can we leverage that? So the first question is, you need to understand where you are. That's the first question. Where are we in terms of 3 Ps: people, process, a platform, / technology? If you understand those answer of that 3 Ps minimum, it will impacting how we're going to leverage that. And then if you know where you are starting from, and then it's easier to understand where you want to go. Either it's going to be 1 step or 2 steps. Is it going to be through stages or just one go? And then the question as well, I mean, talking about technology, is this going to be modular? Or is it going to be end-to-end? This is coming to the my answer earlier about the stages of this implementation of this technology. Above all of this technology, all the bells and whistles are good. But actually, who actually behind it? It's us, it's people with eyes, with the fingers, with the mouth. You know, they look at the app, they look at the all the technology they are currently using. The question, are they using properly? Do they understand it? So that is also another thing that we have to ensure if we want to leverage that technology. Once you answer the questions of where you are with the technology's maturity journey, then you want to leverage something, make sure that people are using it. At least your team, at the smallest aspect of this, as the agent of change. If they don't use it, there's no point. Expect something bigger than that. Because we're talking about collaboration. Collaboration is not going to exist without what? Communication. Without communication is not going to exist without what? Connectivity. So when we're talking platform that can enable them to do all of this without seeing face to face, then that technology should be broader. It has to be enhancing the productivity, the collaboration, the communication, the mobility, the messaging service, and so on and so forth. I don't want to go into detail, but this is a generic recipe for everyone. You know, depends on the maturity journey. Is it going to small companies or is it large enterprises? They need to understand where they are first and then where they wanted to go. I think that's from me. Kai, thank you.
Thanks very much, Sonny. Yes, I like when you mentioned the 3 Ps, platform, people, process. That at the end of the day, it's really how employees or people adopt a technology. We go to the whole mindset, culture, behavior, conversation in that regard. But of course, you know, it takes 2 to tango. You know, it's not just one, technology and then that's it. There's a lot of other factors that are in place actually. And we're coming towards the end of our panel, and I want to give you all maybe a minute or so to, you know, share your last thoughts on our panel discussion for our audience to take away with them.
You start with me?
Yes, Edmund, go ahead.
All right. Well, the one thing that I believe in this day and age that we need to do is to not only digital transformation, but the most key thing is having your customer experience more, how do I say this, transformational for them. Because in this day and age, people don't go to store. People don't go to, you know, we're not allowed to go to the mall unless you have a vaccine certificate and everything. So we need to reinvent ways for people to come in anywhere, everywhere, anytime. So having said that, of course, me being an AI person, AI is a big part of that. Understanding our customer journeys, having known our data, exactly where our customer pain points are, what they need exactly. It is important decision making to make. Thanks.
I can go next. just adding to what Edmund stated, being an information security professional, Edmund stated about his customer journey. I would like to state on the employee's journey about within the organization. It's very important that your policies balance out. Although security risks are adamant and they are here forever to stay. It's very important that you balance out your policy and the processes to have a better joining experience and onboarding experience in a remote workplace collaboration environment, and also ensure the health perspective of not only the mental and the physical are probably very clearly identified within the HR and the IT and the security policies to ensure better effectiveness of your employees as well.
For that?
Okay, I'll be next then. Yes, we heard about the technology earlier, and also I'd like to add just a few things here about work and life balance. At the end of the day, it's our staff, it's our team. Zoom, getting into Zoom, almost, from 9 to 5 o'clock. If you can leave at 5 o'clock, that's already give you, a face like a zombie. So detach yourself with that. Sometimes it's important. So not just injecting yourself with the vaccine, with the I've got AstraZeneca, but also inject yourself with a bit of fun. So put that in your team, engage your team with that as well. It's more important than anything else, I guess. Work and life balance. Thank you.
Ryan?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's well put. We've touched on, from Edmund, we've touched on customer empathy. Viraj mentioned about employee empathy, the overall balance from from Sony. So I think, we are the gatekeepers of both the sides. We can do the best infrastructure, providing amazing services for our customers, but we have to make sure that resources that employees need are at their fingertips and it's not too complicated for them to get access. At the same time, zero trust. So, yep, that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone. Again, we spoke about remote workspace or working remotely in this time of pandemic and how technologies actually come to play and add value to that capability in the midst of pandemic. Of course, these capabilities are readily available. Yes, it has changed consumer behavior. Right? When we buy, we don't buy anymore outside, but it's really just online. And true to what Sonny said, we can also be in Zoom the entire day. That's also not impossible at this time. And that's why, we have a phenomenon called Zoom fatigue, right? We have to keep on reminding ourselves that we need not be in Zoom the entire day and really balance it out. And I think overall, this is the call to action for all of us, to be mindful and conscious of what technology can do to our lives in this time of pandemic, and how can we strike a balance in between. Of course, we need to manage our stakeholder expectations, but we also need to manage ourselves, right, in terms of our other needs, such as our mental and emotional well-being while we go through this pandemic. And on that note, I want to thank each and every one of you for all your valuable insights and perspective. I hope the audience has learned a thing or two in this panel. And once again, thank you very much. I'm Kay Calpalugtu. I'm the founder and CEO of Hungry Workhorse, based in Manila, Philippines. Good day, everyone, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kay, for leading us wonderfully.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Edmund. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Rag. Thank you, Sony. What an incredible panel discussion. We were absolutely hooked to the screen, and I'm sure all the attendees fare the same emotion as I do. So thank you once again for being a part of our incredible day. Thank you.
Cheers.
Welcome.